Hi, Mimi. All right, I won't have the chance to say hello to everyone, but welcome everyone. And Seda, shall I get us started?
Yes, please.
Okay, and first I'll introduce our topic, and then we'll take turns introducing our amazing guests. But today, I'm delighted to be here with my dear friends and collaborators. So my dear friends, Cindy Allen, Michael Warsaw, and Verda Alexander. And then my dearest collaborators and friends, Seda Eves, Leah Kaplan, and Meltem Parlak. And you all around the table are dear friends, collaborators, and champions. Thank you so much for coming today to our salon around work from home. And this was Seda's idea. Seda, I'm so glad that you wanted to do this. So here we are together. Welcome to Work from Home. You know, if you know anything about our work, you know that we love dichotomies, and dichotomies are those things that oppose each other. And if you can bring them together, you can create amazing and long-term value. It's kind of like having your cake and eating it too. And when you think of dichotomies, I mean, nothing can beat work from home, right? Because normally, if you're at work, you're not at home. And if you're at home, you're not at work. I mean, it's as simple as that, except until COVID, right? That is. So now WFH, which to me really sounds like a swear word every time I hear it, is what we're all doing. And the stigma of working from home is gone. So of course, we as Birsel+Seck, the design and innovation firm, we were ahead of the curve, I have to say. And we started working from home 10 years ago, and we completely, I mean, we practiced deconstruction, reconstruction, so we completely deconstructed our office, and everybody started working from wherever they wanted. It just took everybody else until now to catch up with this idea and to have a global pandemic, right? But what's amazing about this is the pandemic has upended our biases about work. You know, we used to think that you could only do your best work and work efficiently and work hard if you were at an office and if you had this hierarchical structure and somebody watching over you. But it turns out that people are disciplined and hardworking, and they honor their engagements. And we can all, you know, do our best work and do our best thinking, even if we're in our pajamas, right? So, and the other good thing is now our kids know what we do. So that's the other great thing about working from home. So as we see the end of the tunnel, we're all getting vaccinated and we're getting ready to mingle. We just wanted to bring our friends and you all together to talk about what did we learn, what was great about work from home, and which parts do we want to keep. So let's get started. I want to start by introducing my co-host, Seda Eves. Hi, Seda.
Hi.
So Seda is my dear friend and collaborator. We've been working together for, I don't know, a long time now. And Seda is the rare left and right brain person who also has a very big heart. Seda is the Director of Strategy and Growth at Birsel+Seck. She's also the designer at residence or in residence at UCSD. She's a board member at Design Forward Alliance, a mom of 2 amazing kids and a cool cat. And her personal motto, I'm going to tell you a personal motto, Seda.
Yes.
Why struggle?
That's right.
And normally we would all have our Why Struggle t-shirts, except, you know, next time I wanted to wear something a little bit more fancy. So with that, Seda, tell us about the hard facts of working from home.
Yes. Thank you, Aisha, for that brilliant intro, as always. So I mean, we are all living in it, right? But this dramatic and unforeseen shift has happened about a year ago. I'm sure there were some of us, like Aisha mentioned, the for us, like us, that we about 20% of the employees working from home before. Yet now that number went up to 71% and even probably higher at the beginning of the pandemic. And not only that, about 54% of the people wants to work from home after the pandemic ends. So if you look at from what it was before, the February of 2020, if you take a snapshot and to today, that's a gain of 34% of people who would want to work from home at some capacity. And I think if you look at a hybrid model, that number goes up. So that shift has happened with this catalyst moment, and we wanted to, Aisha and I wanted to, and the team wanted to really bring this back to our online salon and talk about it. So with that, I'll introduce Aisha, since she so kindly did for me. She's my friend and collaborator, and she's the co-founder of Birsel+Seck design studio, one of the most creative people that Fast Company named as one of the 100 most creative people. And she's recipient of many awards, including Interior Design's Best of Year Award 2020, product designer. Thank you, Cindy Allen. And she's the mom of cool kids and the creator extraordinaire of Design the Life You Love. Take it away.
Thank you. Yeah, I had unmuted. I just unmuted. And Seda, you were going to say something about my new haircut. Come on.
Oh, yeah. And she has a new haircut. If you
Thank you. Yeah. Especially, it's 1 hour fresh, so. Okay, and now it's my great pleasure to introduce my dear friend and collaborator, Michael Warsaw, who's down-to-earth, approachable, and deeply empathic persona belies his title and role at Hayworth. Michael is the Global VP of Design Innovation and Sustainability at Hayworth. He's also a member of the Board of Trustees at Art Center. He is an originally an automobile designer and a lover of automobiles, and the super dad of 3 girls, right?
That's
Michael?
right.
Yeah.
Yes.
And Michael embodies this quote from Hayworth, and I think, Michael, this might be from you, but Hayworth's really goal for 2021 is, the answer is that we must embrace creativity by taking risks, playing in uncharted territory, and pushing the envelope in 2021. So with that, Michael, yes, it's great to see you. And we wanted to start by asking you, what was your life like during COVID, and what was work from home like for you personally?
Yeah, well, thank you very much. It's so great to be a part of all of this. And thanks for that really nice introduction. Hello, everybody. I mean, this last year, like it was for everyone, was emotional, and it was, incredible, and it was terrible all at the same time. It was a whole host of emotions, but I would say, I learned a lot. I think we all learned so much. One of the things I would say is I learned how to say this. So I don't know if that comes off backwards or not, but I never want to say this again. You're on mute. It's kind of a love-hate relationship with this past year when I just think back. I mean, I love not having a commute and being able to go downstairs. And I have to say, there were a few times, as a designer, you hate early meetings. We have some 7 a.m. meetings, and I have to say, there were some times I woke up at 6:45 and I was right there for the meeting right at 7 o'clock, and no one knew anything, I love that. But I hate not being able to have a transition time. I think commuting actually gets you in a Zen state. I miss listening to the radio. I mean, all of these things that get you kind of ready. You know, I love having access to everyone. If you think of how easy it is to have access to, you know, your teams, to anyone at a moment's notice, and there they are in front of you. But I hate everyone having access to me. It's, you know, the line of work, life, and all of that, it was just out of balance. There's really no defined territory anymore. So what else did I love? You know, I love stretchy pants and pajamas. You know, you don't know if I'm wearing pajamas now, although I am at work. So today is a professional day, but no, there's, you know, there's just an overall acceleration, I think, of everything that we've been talking about work and work-life balance and how to do your best work. It's just been an acceleration of everything we've talked about over the last how many years, where, you know, today I think we're starting to find this fluidity and this balance, and I love it. You know, our work, you know, our reason for being at Hayworth is not about the office. It's about helping people work and do their best work. And so I love the idea of having that mean, you know, figuring out a way to work your best at home or in the cafe or in the office. And I think that obviously is the future, is all of those spaces. So.
Yeah. Thank you, Michael. That was great. And I love you're like my kids who like wake up 1 minute to 8 and then school starts at 8.
Exactly. Exactly.
Great.
All right, so I want to introduce Verda Alexander, who's a brilliant architect, co-principal of Studio O+A since 1991, who thinks about work and future of work and has shaped the office and working environments of Silicon Valley giants like Facebook and many others. She's also an artist and a mom and a regular at our Design the Life You Love virtual teas on Wednesdays. In fact, we use her life in a manifesto during COVID as our like example to show it to others. She's a design activist on top of all of these. And so taking design to people, which is something very dear to my heart. And how design can be a force for good, from community building to climate change. Her latest, like right before COVID, she bought a food truck, converted into a mobile design studio, and went around California and took design to communities. So there's a great book and it's in the links. So Verda, welcome. And so I want to ask you, how is it going 1 year into the pandemic? What do you want to keep from this period and what needs to change for you?
Yeah, thank you, Seda. Thank you for the intro, wonderful intro. And I first have to give a little shout out to the regulars, the virtual tea regulars. Hi, Annette. Hi, Denise. There's a few others. And then I also have to say nice hairdo, Aisha. I saw her yesterday and it was long like mine, and now it's short.
Yeah, Verda, thank you. Now your turn.
Yes, I don't know if I could go that short. Yeah, so I like Aisha, I was working from home before the pandemic, and I think one of the things that I think is, oh, here we go. One thing about the pandemic is you have background noise. That's a train. That's an issue that's been interesting to deal with. But there is a lot of disparity with different work from homes. I'm super lucky that today, unfortunately, I'm not in my normal space. I'm actually gonna turn off my camera so you can see me in my normal space. This is me in my work from home. See, Cindy, my hip award right there.
Uh-huh.
This is my work from home space, and I'm surrounded by all the creative all the things that I've done, all my creative inspiration, everything that I love, and that it's my art studio. It's huge. I have a wonderful view out my window. And I've been working from home before the pandemic a few days a week. So it was a pretty easy transition for me. And a lot of people are on top of their spouses or their children, or have tiny workspaces or in apartments, can't get outside. So I think we have to acknowledge that there's a lot of disparity with work from homes. And I have to acknowledge too that I'm very lucky. And Aisha told me to tell a funny story about work from home. And so my issue is my dog. She is my saboteur. And I only just realized this. She would, every time I have a podcast, and every time I'd start my podcast, she'd paw at the front door or something, she'd just something, right? And there was this one day just a couple of weeks ago that made me realize she is deliberately trying to sabotage me. So I had a podcast in the morning, and this time she was crying and whining in the background the entire time. I could not get her to shut up. And then in the evening, I had a board meeting, really important. I was presenting something for board vote, for board approval. And the minute I started talking, she grabbed the loudest dog toy and started just going. And I literally had to say, 1 minute, get up, chase my dog around the house, because of course she thought it was a game, to grab the toy away from her and put it away high enough where she couldn't reach it while I finished my presentation. But these are the things we're dealing with at home, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
I
and then
love
I'll
that.
continue with some of my thoughts around work from home after.
But what did you do with your dog? Where's the dog today?
Well, I'm not at home. I'm not at home today. Thank God.
Oh.
I just have
I
the
see,
train to deal with.
Great, Verda, it's so good to see you. And I love your work from home examples. Cindy, you need to feature that. It's really cool.
Yes.
So, so now it's my great pleasure and honor to introduce my dear friend and champion, Cindy Allen, who needs no introduction whatsoever. But I will do it anyway. Cindy is the editor-in-chief of Interior Design magazine, and she is, as you know, a design powerhouse. And Cindy is used to, working under difficult conditions, because her first issue was the 9/11 issue, in the sense that her first issue as editor-in-chief corresponded to the September issue, and yet she rose to that occasion and showed her leadership. And since then, she's been really showing us what design leadership looks like. And now with COVID, I feel like this was another opportunity for you, Cindy, to turn a catastrophe into innovation. And so you started Interior Design TV, and since then you've been hosting all your friends and designers and championing us all with incredible energy and good humor. You make it look effortless, but I know that it's an incredible amount of work. You're also the host, Cindy is also the host of Giants of Design, but you yourself is a giant of design. So I'm so happy that you came today. And I know you love swimming, so I just wanted to ask you, so do you get to swim while you're working from home? And how has this been experience for you, Cindy?
Aisha, I love you, and thank you all, by the way. This is my second time on the tee, and the first time I was like super prepared with pictures and stuff, and now this time I'm like, okay, I know these folks, we can just talk. Right now, I am very lucky that we have a house out in the Hamptons, and the pool is filling up now, so I will be swimming shortly. So I'm happy about that. I have a lot of thoughts, so we'll just figure out which thoughts come out. We, as Aisha said, you know, when you're in media, people always ask, well, how are you doing? I'm like, well, in media, when the industry is doing well, you're doing really, really well, and you're crazed. But when things are really bad and you want to be a leader, you're really, really crazed in media. And I think we took like a very hard look at the things that we do, and there are a lot of things. And we said, as Aisha said, let's start doing online like it's nobody's business. Now, just keep in mind that like we make a lot of money off of our print. We're in the business of print. So, you know, but now it's expanded into, we've had, you know, events, which was also taken away from us. And then all of this new virtual, which, you know, we have big social following. But anyway, so we just dug in. And I mean, one thing I want to say to everybody is that we're all different people, and no one should compare each other to one another. So like for me, I hate to use the word thrive, but like when there are problems, I tend to move forward. I'm not somebody who retracts. It doesn't mean that everybody else is like that. So please don't feel bad. I'm just giving you my experience. So it's sort of like how to walk in it, how to like walk into the muck. And for me, it really was the thing that I love the most, which was connecting to the designer, to the architect, to the artist, to the creator, also to, you know, the manufacturer, and keep the communication going. And it didn't, you know, and yes, and be inspiring and all those things, but it was really to try to stay connected, because this virtual audience are a lot of other people. There are a lot of students and people from all over the world. And I was very aware that I have an amazing husband and I'm not alone, but so many people are alone. So to me, it meant the most to me that I could maybe make somebody else feel okay. And we've all suffered. So I just wanted to relieve a little of the suffering. And then of course, on the business side, to stay very proactive in terms of, you know, being a leader. So I want to thank Amy, my amazing, I always call her Amazing Amy. She's on, and she worked her freaking tail end off on, so I started Instagram live shows 3 times a week. All last year was 3 times a week. And now we've like settled on twice a week. And then we have these design TV shows, and we're still producing magazines. So I've done like 250 shows and like 17 issues and a book, and who knows, like, but we're action, you know, we're very action oriented. And I think that I'll look back of some of the emotional turmoil that I've had, and I'll feel good that we could keep producing. And I think that's the thing that's probably kept me sane, kept me moving forward, kept me happy, actually. But the hard thing is the staff. The hard thing are, you know, and those of you who have staff, there are people that are close to you, that are around you all the time, and even virtually they have stayed there. But I have writers and editors, and I don't know how they all are. I mean, I try to. They all say they're okay, and they're all pros. My group, they're all pros, but some are young, and they're in, you know, they were in small apartments, and now they may be home with their family. And it's hard to have that connection of even walking in the office and passing by everybody and giving them a touch, how you're doing, answering 10 questions at once. All of that is very, very hard to do. And so it's sort of like, in some ways, the thing that I'm most satisfied by, which is my work. It's hard because I go to bed at night and I still have things that I have to accomplish. And I'm always talking to Amy, like, how can I keep connecting with every single person on my staff? Like, those are the things that are hard. And I say that only because I'm sure everyone has their own issues, and they all matter, you know? So the fact that I'm in a very privileged position to be able to do all these things, I'm very aware of that. But the fact that you all have your own little world that you're dealing with, I just want you all know that really does matter too. And I may take big strides, but take a baby step, or do something that makes you feel good about yourself or about somebody else. for me, making somebody else feel good makes me feel good. So that's kind of how I keep moving forward.
And Cindy, it shows. Thank you so much for sharing that and kind of opening it up to this kind of the highs and lows of working from home. And it's not like we wanted this. It was something that was forced on us. And, you know, Michael and I have talked about this, that, you know, there wasn't much change happening in the home front, you know, except for maybe some innovation around the bathroom or the kitchen, but the home was home. And then suddenly COVID happened, and this became this incredible opportunity, the constraint and the opportunity to think about working from home differently. And in fact, Michael, you and I started collaborating during COVID. You know, we talked about it before, but now, and the idea was like, let's try and understand what the changes are so that we could turn these things into long-term solutions. And we co-designed with end users to understand their perspective, and instead of designing outside of them, we wanted to design with them and the authenticity that and the empathy that comes from that. So with that, I wanted to ask you, Michael, like Hayworth is a pillar of the office industry. How do you see this change affecting you? What are some of your insights professionally? You know?
I mean, I think it's so interesting. You know, Hayworth has this incredible history of, you know, designing, inventing the powered panel, which really blew up, you know, the world of cubicles. Of course, you know, in 1964, it was the Action Office from Miller. And then, you know, Hayworth came out with this powered panel. But so if you think of 1964 all the way to like 1994, 30 years, it was really, you know, a cube farm was the office. And then I say 1994 because it was the Alternative Officing Conference, which, by the way, I was reminded by with O+A's chronology that they put together so brilliantly. It was like from 10 years ago in Metropolis. But it kind of marks, you know, 1964 to 1994, 30 years. And then from 1994, from that conference to almost today, or before COVID, it was, you know, starting to think about the office differently, and, you know, more flexible spaces, more maybe studio environments. But even up until, you know, COVID, it was still about, you know, now benching rather than cubicles and just stuffing a lot of people in the office. I think, so the first 30 years, the second 30 years, now here we are. And the next, let's just say the next 10 years, you know, everyone's talking about how technology is just accelerating like crazy. The next 10 years, we'll see more change than the last 50 or 60 years. So what does that mean for us and for work? I mean, this is what we're experiencing now is, you know, this redefinition of work and where work happens. And so in the home, you know, this kind of sacred place, we do need to figure out how the home can work harder for us to be able to get work done there, but then also be able to transform into a place where it needs to be nurturing and for the family and for friends and everything else. So it just, the home has to work so much harder. And then think of all of the third spaces, the classic, you know, Starbucks or any cafe as a workplace, but work will happen from anywhere. And I think all of that is just super exciting in terms of this next kind of part of the history of work. So.
You need to hold that card that says you're on mute. Thank you. Seda.
Yeah, so Verda, I want to ask you, so the pre-pandemic, you're working with the biggest tech companies and, the outfitting their offices. You're still doing that, but how is that changing? What do you see on your end? How are we going to adjust and change?
Yeah. So I'm super lucky that I get to think about the future a lot and talk about the future a lot. And I thought I would just share, because this pandemic has truly been a grand, instantaneous social experiment at a massive scale, right? That we're all learning from. And I wrote something. Fast Company asked a number of architects and designers to express their vision of the workplace in 2040, only 20 years away. But I'm thinking that things are going to be accelerating, good and bad things, much more quickly as we go forward. So it's a very short paragraph. If you don't mind, I'm going to read this. Our vision for a workplace in 2040 cannot ignore climate change. And so I'm skipping ahead a little bit here. Desks and office sharing will be mandated of all businesses, with empty or underutilized space. Unused space in homes and local downtowns will be converted to remote offices as well. Most old buildings will be retrofitted in a variety of ways for new purposes and to create more space. One positive outcome of the climate catastrophe is how the idea of work will change. With everyone coming together for the sake of sheer survival, fundamental shifts in economics and business practice will take place. International business will mostly be conducted through incredible new technologies that allow us to interact virtually through avatars. As a result, many more people will work from home. And so a host of spaces will be converted to community connection centers, where people come together to exchange ideas and get their social fix. So to me, this is a couple of really important ideas here. And I think a lot of times we don't talk about work from home and the benefit that this year has had for the planet, right? And that if we consciously chose, those of us that can work from home, it's not everywhere. Like San Francisco is a really easy place. Tech firms, it's easy to work from home as a tech firm. Maybe somewhere else in the country where you have to go to where you do more hands-on labor, or there's a reason that you can't work from home. It's going to be different. Again, it's not a one size fits all, but if more of us did work from home, it would have an impact on our global carbon emissions. And I think a lot of times that doesn't get talked about in the conversation. The other thing that I think is tough for everyone with work from home, and in this context here, as I flail around my hands, which I like to do when I talk, is body language is lost. A lot of body language and a lot of the subtle body language is lost. And I think that technology is going to catch up for us in that regard. I think it's going to be really important for us as we Zoom more to get more of those subtle cues that we just don't get. The other thing too that we're exploring is equity, the virtual physical equity. So when people do start going back to the office, the people in the office will in some ways have a status, right? Like a physical, they're there, right? They can maybe do more. And how do you make it equitable for those people on screen? Like, how do you balance the power, the scale of power? And again, I think there's going to be a multitude of ways to explore that and address those issues, but a lot of them will probably come through technology and also company policy, probably. The thing I'm most excited about with this grand experiment is that we're really going to be looking at working anywhere and distributed work. And maybe not necessarily at home, but maybe I'll drive a mile down to my downtown and work in a third space with some of my coworkers. And we're going to be really thinking harder about, do we need to go into the office? Do we need to travel to this meeting? And I think that that's important that we start doing that.
I love
Love
that.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you so much. I love the body, language and how that's going to catch up. And this whole idea of three C's, right? The C cube is what you mentioned, like the community connection centers. I love like even thinking about what that would look like.
So,
Yeah.
Verda, we need you to write the manifesto from work from home.
Okay. I think that would be great.
Michael, you were going to say something.
No, I just love what Verda just said, because, if you think about I think what we've all missed the most is the spontaneous interactions. It's the meeting that happens after the meeting when everyone leaves the room and there's a couple people there. It's walking down the hall and catching eyes with someone and something sparks. All of that is what has really been missed. And so, how do you have that without having to be in the office? I mean, being in the office is certainly one solid way to do it, but how do we capture that in other ways? And I think that's critical.
I agree, Michael. It's that kind of space in between, like space in between, and those of us in sort of managerial positions, like I really, really like doing the work. Like I'm definitely super detail oriented. I love to be like with the designers and like right there. And instead you get stuck into meeting after meeting after meeting after meeting. And Amy knows, because sometimes I'm like, I feel like I'm drowning. I need some space so I can actually physically like do work. And we used to at Sandow, so we used to have Starbucks right in the office, and it used to be that thing. What was that thing they used to say, like when you go to when you go have a coffee where a great idea happens? So we don't have any of that anymore.
Right.
And those are and at the same time, like everyone said, oh my God, we're so proud of everybody because we're so productive and everyone's so productive. But I don't think that's sustainable, just in terms of people are getting tired and burnt out. And you were saying, like on the way to work, or that other space where it gives you a chance to think about things and gets, and move around and not be in your sweatpants all the time.
Exactly.
Those are, I'm sure there's going to be a way that it's a an in between. I'm sure there is going to be a way. I kind of worry, as again, any managers out there, I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to freaking keep track of everybody? I don't want to spend the rest of my career keeping track of where everyone is. Like that's like scary to me. Yet at the same time, just so you guys know, we were in a sublease. So now we moved out, and I, for the first time, went 2 days ago, I just finished my vaccination and started to look at spaces for our group. And it's kind of like, what do we want those things to be? And those were, of course, all the things, Verda, that you were saying. It's sort of, experiential, and we want to bring community together and have roundtables and meetings and events and stuff. But sort of like, so where are we working? We're working at home, and then we're getting together and having fun in the office, or
maybe,
it's sort
maybe.
of like, right? Is it the new amenity space is like our new office? I think Hayworth, by the way, Michael, is like so set up so well, and I'm so proud of Hayworth, because there's, first of all, the people are fantastic, and the product's amazing, but also just you bought smart companies, and now like you're set up to do home hospitality work, like all of it. And I'm just proud of you guys. So
anyway. Thank you so much. Thank you. Yeah,
very cool.
Yeah, I don't think it's, oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I don't think it's so much to come to the office to have fun, but to do purposeful work that is meaningful and that can really only be done together. And it is probably a lot of those, that casual collision type stuff, because the one thing about Zoom too is it's very formal, right? You don't want to interrupt people, and it's like everybody takes turns, and so I think that that's what the office is going to support, more of that type of thing. and a little bit of fun.
I hope so, and I hope that the corporations will show the leadership that they need to show to not go fully back to the way things were. I mean, that would be such a pity.
Right.
And instead, use this opportunity, like you're all saying, where the office now truly has a function very intentional, and it could be all around collaboration and learning and socializing, like socializing not to party, but to learn from each other and to get to know each other. But then one of the most difficult things in the office was to do heads down focused work. That's about reflecting and imagining and just alone time. And now homes could take on that role. And if organizations can allow for that flexibility to happen, I think we can really come out of this with a beautiful dichotomy resolution where work and home both make sense, together.
Right. And Verda, by the way, I've heard 1,000 times from every designer, and I put this in the fun bucket, but I put this in the fun bucket, but they want to get together so that they can look at fabrics and materials like design work, right? But that's fun too. But you know
Absolutely.
what I mean? Like they need that kind of collaboration, and we do too. Like definitely on the creative side of the things that we make, on the media side, that it's much more helpful and useful to be together for sure.
Totally.
And we're calling ours an experience center. Like,
Yeah.
at the end of the day, it's going to be something like that.
Yeah, we've talked about culture more in this past year, trying to figure out the future than probably any other topic. And I think everyone understands how important culture is to a company. To figure out what your culture is, it defines your company. And the office environment has the chance to actually create the culture that you want. There's you think of country clubs in the past, this stodgy, old idea. But think of like the workplace as the club you belong to, as a place to escape to. We used to talk about escaping from work, to go somewhere out of the office, but we want people to escape from wherever they are and come back to the office, but for restorative things, to be able to experience the culture and to have maybe the amenities that you don't have at home.
Well, this is the thing. So Verda, this is for you, girlfriend. Just like, the tech companies, they were all about culture. I mean, that's, they lived and died by having all those amenities and people working 24 hours a day there. And I'm sure that's a big shift to think about what is that new culture and how can it thrive, especially on startups and companies that, like the next Facebook, like.
Yeah. And that is definitely one of the big questions, but they were also one of the first industries to really be experimenting on a grand scale. And sometimes in some cases failing, right? Who was it, Google that sent everybody home and then brought everybody back, right?
Right.
Yeah.
What's funny, like on my end. So this is what I hear. I hear health and wellness, everything. And obviously that's super, super important. And it's like, it's infiltrating every category of our industry. And also a lot sustainability in a way that designers are really, really more focused on specifying product that's more local or as much as they can, and all of that makes sense, right? So it's interesting because, hospitality, I always call hospitality the golden children, and they took the biggest hit of all and was devastating. Although all our research is like hospitality is going to be the biggest windfall because everyone's going to want to travel. But I kind of joke around with some of my friends who, some people say, oh yeah, over this time, I was like, I really got in touch with myself and, feeling so well. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I've just been working the whole time. But in terms of hospitality designers, we say, okay, technology can help us, and it really can. But I say that forget about your wellness, because the minute you get the work that you want to get again, your wellness is out the window. And a very good friend of mine who's a leader in a big firm she just told me, yep, it's starting. I'm like flying to Hawaii for a day to get a job and then coming back. So, you know,
Yeah, right.
designers want the work.
Great. And Seda, I just wanted to capture some of your findings around work from home, and then we can open it to the questions from our audience as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So we wanted to just bring this piece of information where we've done a lot of research, as Aisha mentioned, for the work from home, and really thinking of what that would look like. And what we found was one of the cognitively helpful thing to do is to really create these nooks within your workspace, whether that's your home, your garage, or your backyard, or whatever that is, but either associating that with your own routine of, okay, morning I do this here, and then afternoon somewhere. Like it just depends on what your own personal preferences, whether that's governed by time of the day, or the type of work that you're doing, whether that's like a Zoom meeting, or, as Aisha was saying, like a reflective kind of heads down work. So having sort of very specifically different places and spaces, as much as you can do within the home, truly helps, like sort of this simulating, the office cooler versus your cubicle versus your conference room, or versus just a walk outside, right? And that's actually very much supported by cognitively, like helping you associate this work and home, and being more effective.
Yeah. Hey,
I love that.
Just a comment
sorry,
on
I was
that.
just going to say, that gives meaning to my bedroom.
Yeah, but related to that, just like cognitively and kind of changing your environments, what I've started to do is, there are some mornings where I just want to be at home. I want to work. I find that I can write better when, in the morning, and I can think clearly. And then lunchtime, I'll commute into the office, and it's really a lovely way to have a day, to be able to be fluid like that and kind of move around, and it keeps you stimulated versus thinking you have to either be at home all day or at work all day or whatever. And so I've started to just experiment with that over the last few months, really, and that's what really works for me.
Wonderful. So there's some questions for our guests. So there's a question specifically to Verda. What about the migration of people to other parts of the country? The South and Southwest, California is losing one House of Representatives, while Texas, Florida, and the South are gaining representatives. Who asked this question? Maybe, we can just say hello. Anyway, so Verda.
I asked the question.
Okay, is that Charles?
That's Charles.
I think what's going to happen, I think this discussion is interesting, and the pandemic maybe accelerated it, but we're seeing that people are moving into different places, and maybe we may move away from large scale metropolises as people migrate to different parts of the country. And it's may not be a function necessarily just of work. It may be a function of age. Our population is aging in America. People are going to look for places to retire. People are moving to Florida, Texas, and whatever. Our work is changing as a function of that. So larger municipalities, which were the centers for work or things, may change as a function of an aging population and a different demographic.
Yeah, well, I've thought about this a lot, thinking about the future, and I think that the migration away from cities is temporary. I think people are going to be coming back for the city, to the cities, but for different reasons. I think because they're cultural centers, because that's where people are, and because they're going to want to be close to amenities, not just work. And one of the things cities need to do is kind of like the Paris, they've mandated this 15-minute city where every neighborhood has everything that you need within a 15-minute walk or bike ride. Cities are going to have to step up their game to attract people back. We don't want people dispersed in California. We don't want people right in the wildfire zones. Biden is trying to set aside 30% of US lands as national park land because it's better for the planet to not have people dispersed all over the place. So I'm plugging for the city.
I am too. I mean, I am too, as a New Yorker. I mean, I do think like companies are thinking, look, we can find talent, you know, in lots of different places that we never thought of before. And that's not such a bad thing, but I can't imagine my whole company all over the place either.
Well, absolutely. And just to flip that around, you know, for us, we're in Holland, Michigan, which is a beautiful place to be in the summer months, but maybe not in the winter. And it's not necessarily, you know, a metropolis. You know, all of a sudden now we have access to talent all over the place because we've changed the way we think about, you know, where our talent needs to be. And it's just, of course, you know, it totally makes sense. So, yeah, go to the cities and work for anyone, anywhere, right?
I think the most ideal scenario is where I could walk to my office a few blocks away in an urban environment.
Yeah. It's completely efficient, totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I just want New York to come back.
Me too, me too, me too.
Well, I think the news is New York officially opens July 1st. I think that was the news headline today. So.
Oh,
And I
wow.
think we also lost a representative or are in the process of losing one over with 69, we're missing 69 people.
Yeah.
Anyway, and how about another question? That was great.
We have another one. Do we have any data on productivity? Many people are saying that they're much more productive working from home.
You know,
I mean,
for us,
go ahead.
we've had, I'll tell you, for the creative teams, our productivity has increased significantly. The, you know, our critiques and reviews and project reviews, all of that, it's just a tremendous amount of work that's been done over the past year plus, and the quality of work has been amazing. So we never saw any lag there, and in fact, we saw an acceleration of productivity. But with one caveat, like, you know, we don't know what kind of damage is being done though with all the other things that we just brought up, the culture and work-life balance and all of that, the burnout. So. You know, the truth will be what happens next, and see how things really moderate.
Great. Cindy, you were saying something.
No, I would, it's kind of, it's an interesting, I don't think I've heard of any company I've talked to, and there've been hundreds that haven't said that everyone's being so productive. But again, you know, some of it is, I have to say, like, there are these waves. So I think in the beginning, everyone was afraid and fearful of their jobs and we're working pretty much around the clock. And
True.
And then that kind of settled itself out, just in terms of if people were losing their jobs or getting furloughed or whatever. And then you had a period of time where you're trying to find a normal with your groups. But I know right now, like, you know, a bunch of my team, they're pretty burnt out. I mean, we're doing a lot. And as you said, and I think, Michael, as you said, like, going to work, spending that time in the car, spending the time in a cab or in a train, or like going to get a coffee, like, if we added up all that time, it probably is a lot of time in the day, but there's a purpose for that too. Now, I'm not saying we should all be going back to work 5 days a week, but at all, but there was a purpose for those spaces in our minds and our bodies, and, you know, and so it's, yeah, I like your, like, we don't know the long-term effects of my friend David Rockwell. He said to me, he was so funny. He just did, talk about inspiration. He just did the Oscars. He just did the set design for the Oscars.
It was really great.
Which was unbelievable in Union Station. It was so complicated. He used to call me from California, like, and say, "Oh my God, what, you know, I can't, how did this happen?" He literally walked through fear, you know, like walked through fear and said yes. But he said to me, he said, "You know, Cindy, you know, I bet you we're going to look back at the projects we did during COVID and go, that was designed virtual, like that was designed online, like it's gonna, they're gonna look different, they're gonna," and you know what, there's truth to that too, because like in terms of art and product that we get from all over the world, we're getting all of these virtual backdrops with products plunked in, like some beautiful things, like something interesting will come out of it, but we definitely will be able to see like, oh, this happened during COVID.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think a beautiful part of that, sorry, is going to be, when you say that, Cindy, that what comes to my mind is, yes, and we're going to say, you know, one person was in San Diego and the other person was in Brazil and the other person was in Turkey, and then, you know, this person was doing that in South Africa, and, you know, and so that you were talking about this before we got started, the whole hierarchy, flattening it out, you know. I just want maybe Seda, you could just talk about that, where we've become, like right now, a rectangle, right?
Right. So we were really just thinking of like, what did we really learn from this period? And one thing that really come to the front for us has been, because work now happens at home, and home is the hearth, right? And home is the spirit, and home is where you are authentically yourself. So that's the kind of the new angle that we are hopefully going to carry to the future, a bit of that, and bringing our whole self. But then the second thing is like this, even in this platform, this Zoom makes everything like, you don't know if Michael has a corner office. He just has a box, just like the size of mine, right? And I, you know, I can be an intern and have the same size box, and in a way I can cut over his, you know, what he's saying, and I can speak. So not that that's the right thing to do, but I'm just saying, like, I think there's this big flattening of organizational structure, at least like from a mental standpoint, like where we see things. And I just really wonder what that's going to do to the org structure and the culture longer term. And
all right, on that cliffhanger,
yeah.
well done, Seda. That might bring us to, maybe we need to do this again, because I feel like this was just the beginning of a beautiful conversation.
This was an appetizer.
Yeah.
Volume 1. We might do volume 2, and we'll ask everyone if they want to come back, especially our guests. If you're game, let's do it. Thank you so much for your time, your interest, your authenticity today. Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, Verda, and thank you, Michael. Thank you, Seda, and thank you, everyone who joined us today. We're all kind of zoomed out, but you still came, so thank you for that.
Thank you.
We're looking
this was
forward
great.
to the next one.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Nice to see everybody.
Nice to see everybody.